everyone, and welcome in for a midweek edition of the unofficial WCC Hoops podcast. I'm Zach Farmer. We have a number of great games going on this weekend, and I'm going to start to go into those. So I talked about a little earlier in the week. So those four are Washington State and Iowa, LMU, St. Louis, Santa Clara, Nevada, and then St. Mary's and Nebraska. So we'll get into all those games throughout the course of the show. Also have a conversation with Theo Lawson from the Spokesman Review. He and I will talk about Gonzaga and where they are at this stage. Obviously, Gonzaga is coming off two big wins over the course of the past week, not only Arizona State, but also Baylor, obviously, on opening night. And we'll talk a little bit about, obviously, like what the rest of the non-conference looks like. UMass Lowell coming up this Friday. While it's not the biggest matchup, that is not a game to be overlooked by anybody as well. That should be one of the better mid-majors in the country this year. Before getting further, remember to be sure to hit that subscribe button and follow along on social media at Post by Zach. Also at unofficial WCC Pod. You can also adding 2 new platforms, as I know people are starting to make transitions from one to the other. If you want to check out Blue Sky and then also check out Threads, I'm also going to have presences on those platforms as well. So same usernames, new platforms. So be sure to follow along on there as well. And I'm going to start to post a little bit more often to those as we kind of go forward. All right. So all that said, let's get into it. And I'm going to start with the team that had a really good showing just the other night, and that is St. Mary's, who took on Akron just the other night and really came out strong in that one. Might have been their best showing of the season, a 19-point win against the Zips. St. Mary's is 3-0. And yes, the opponents' names don't look all that exciting. Towson, Chattanooga, Akron. But they have slowly gotten better and better and better in these first 3 games. If you haven't been paying attention to what's really been going on with the Gaels, they've had some really big impacts from 2 of the newcomers. First and foremost is Paulus Morauskas. So far, 18 points per game, 13 rebounds a game. He's had double-doubles in each of the first 3 contests for St. Mary's. So, and he looks the part. He is tough inside. We've seen a lot of what he can do around the paint, on the glass, and whatnot, which has been great. But we also haven't seen yet that part of him that we knew about going in, which was his 3-point shot. And we haven't seen that all too much at this stage. But this is a guy who can run that point forward and hit the break. A lot kind of similar to what we saw Josh Jefferson do a year ago, but Morauskas looks a little bit more polished on that front, running that break. Good and willing passer out of the post, and early results from the sophomore. And so that's really good signs for St. Mary's early on. Mikey Lewis is the other one. He was one of the highly touted guys coming in. True freshman. He's averaging 14 a game through the first 3 contests, 43% from 3. Unafraid is a great way to kind of describe him to this point. He knows how to look for his shot, but it's within the flow of the offense. I don't think he's gotten a little too out of sorts on that front, which is a good sign. Obviously, you sometimes expect a freshman to maybe try to do a little too much, but that has not been the case with Lewis. And they had 55 rebounds against Akron, which is just wild for any game. Like, honestly, like that's the sort of number you expect to see against like very low tier teams. And St. Mary's dominated the glass in this one. The defense has lagged behind in these first 3 contests, which is a little odd for a St. Mary's team. But the offense has been one of the really kind of defining things of this young season. In fact, I think I was looking at the KenPom numbers. St. Mary's already like adjusted offense is ranked in the 20s, which we haven't seen in quite a while. This is an offense that knows how to get up and down now. They're scoring 80 plus points a game. which I know in itself is kind of wild to hear that St. Mary's is scoring that much in the early going. So you still have Augustus Marshallonis, you still have Mitchell Saxon, you still have Luke Barrett. You have some of these key pieces that St. Mary's is going to continue to roll out there. They have been now going into this game against Nebraska. I think there's obviously some big things that they're going to have to keep an eye on, and I mean big in the literal sense, because this is a big Nebraska team. One of the leaders of that squad, Bryce Williams, 6'7" guard. He had 27 in their season opener against UT Rio Grande Valley. He's had 10 points in each of the last 2 games, and he's 4 for 15 from the field. So there's been a little inconsistency with him, but again, a big presence at that guard spot. On the front line, just a couple of just giants. I'm going to butcher this name. Berke Boryuk Tungel, 6'10" forward, sophomore, 8.6 rebounds a game to this point, but he's going to be a load inside. I'm looking at Morauskas as being kind of the matchup there. And then the other matchup problem that could present itself is going to be Braxton Mie, a 7'1" center, senior. He started 2 of the games early on. I don't know if the stats are quite right on their website because it was hard to actually find their 3rd game, oddly enough. Not sure why that was the case. But again, a 7'1" and 6'10" on that front line. This is going to put a lot of pressure on Mitchell Saxon. It's going to put a lot of pressure on Paulus Morauskas. It's also going to put a lot of pressure onto Harry Wessels, because we've seen in these first few games that Saxon has gotten into some foul trouble. He hasn't been playing nearly as much as we're used to seeing him. So Wessels has had to come in a little bit more often early on in games, and he's been highly effective, especially against Akron. That was actually kind of a bigger game for him. But the combo together has been averaging almost 15 and 10 in the early going. So the productivity is still there even when Saxon comes off, but defensively is where it starts to get a little shaky. And looking at the size of this Nebraska team, that's going to be one of the bigger things. Thinking about how they're going to be able to rebound against this squad. I mean, obviously St. Mary's can rebound. There's already early evidence that is not going to be maybe one of their weak points. That's going to be a strong point. But this is also a very good defensive team for Nebraska. They're also going to rebound well. They're going to defend the perimeter well. So this is a squad that I think is going to give them some matchup problems, even though on paper they don't look the best offensively. They're shooting 42% from the field as a team. They're shooting 24% from 3. This is not a good offensive team for Nebraska, but this is a team that's probably going to grind St. Mary's out. They're going to slow the pace down, because that's kind of how they're going to have to win some of these ball games. They did have an early matchup, even with like a Bethune-Cookman, that was 68-58. 63-58 was the final in that one. Yes, Nebraska won, but really kind of like a slower, drag it out sort of game, which, might be a familiar thing to St. Mary's. That's a style they're kind of used to playing. And even though they've played a little bit more up-tempo so far in the season, you at least have Marshallonis, Saxon, Wessels, Barrett, who all have Jordan Ross, who've all kind of gone through this with a slower pace and know how to kind of map this out and what that looks like. The one thing I think it also to consider is that St. Mary's will have just a couple games to get, obviously a couple days to get ready for this game on Sunday, almost a full week. But on the Nebraska side, they're going to have a lot of time to even just think about this game and maybe put all their chips on the table on this game, because they won't play again after that Sunday until the 22nd, when they go to Creighton. And so again, this Nebraska team is going to be defense first. This is going to be I think a lower scoring game. I don't think we're going to see St. Mary's get into the 80s in this one. I could very easily see this one being low 70s, high 60s, somewhere in that ballpark. I could even see maybe St. Mary's reverting back to what we've seen them as. They've gotten better defensively over these first few games. and maybe we're just looking at a game in the 60s. In either case, this is going to be St. Mary's first big conference test. It's their first, obviously, game against a power conference squad. And it's going to be a measuring stick for the Gaels. And because I don't think these first three games really, you look at when you think about, the measuring stick games, these are three teams that are good squads that they've played so far, but are teams they should beat. And as is Nebraska. St. Mary's should be able to handle Nebraska and win on a neutral site in South Dakota. But this is going to be a tougher task. This is going to be a team that can match them for size. This is going to be a team that matches them for physicality. And it's going to be a team that's going to push them defensively or on the offensive side, as this is a team that's going to play very good defense. And we've seen the squad hasn't been really tested on that end. Now, maybe that's something to be said about this offense is actually that much better than it was a year ago. But what I think is that this is going to provide them just the toughest task they've had on their offense. And can they find different ways to score the basketball? If, say, something gets taken away from them, if Morauskas gets taken away, how do they find that other resource, other outlet? Marciulionis has been up and down on the point total. He did have a 27-point game, but the other two games he has been below that 10. He has been below that 10-point marker. But he's also been incredibly effective in other ways. Like he's been averaging almost like 9 assists a game, which it's funny. Like it's kind of like been lost a little bit that he's been so effective to this point, because Ryan Nemhard has been so good in the same department, him averaging 11 assists a game. But the St. Mary's team does feel a little bit more balanced offensively, so they're going to have to keep that balance, find probably other outlets to really help them score the basketball. I think it's going to be a tougher night for Morauskas. I think it's going to be a tougher night for the center combo of Saxon and Wessels. So we're going to need to see probably the Luke Barretts. You're going to need to see Marciulionis. You're going to need to see Mikey Lewis and Jordan Ross also kind of step up offensively for them to be able to pull this one out on Sunday. And thinking about this team, thinking about, again, like where this squad is, it's always the measuring stick of where Gonzaga is as well. Gonzaga's played a couple games. They're going into a week where it's a little bit lighter. They have more or less like 4 full days to get ready for UMass Lowell, which is going to be a really good contest for them. Arizona State gave them probably more of a push than they expected, and maybe Arizona State's just a lot better than we all thought they were. And of course, the Baylor game, it's a great win. It's obviously like 38-point win, whatnot. It's hard to find any sort of fault in that one. But it's also probably not the norm of what we're going to see moving throughout the course of the non-conference. And especially now when you start to see, well, Kentucky now has gotten a big win over Duke. You see some of these other games that are maybe looking better or worse as we're getting closer and closer to those contests. All that said, let's kind of take a recap and look back at what this past week was. And we'll bring in Theo Lawson to talk about the Zags and where they are at this stage. One full week into the season, and the Zags are on a roll. So I'm going to bring in Theo Lawson from the Spokesman Review. And Theo, 2 games in, what are your impressions of this Zag team? Obviously, kind of 2 very different games that we've seen so far.
Yeah, two different games, a blowout by 38 points, and then a win, 8-point win over Arizona State. You know, I think I said in my game story last night that a lot of people expected Gonzaga to get a scare from the Big 12 during the opening week of the season, and I don't think anyone expected it would have come from the second Big 12 team on their schedule rather than the first. So surprising in the fact that they were able to handle Baylor so easily, especially a Baylor team that's traditionally given them issues dating back to the national championship game 2 years ago in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Baylor is just a really kind of sturdy, athletic, defensive team that's always kind of given Gonzaga some issues. So the fact that they didn't really give Gonzaga any issues on either end of the floor was a little surprising. And then equally surprising was the fact that Arizona State presented so many issues to Gonzaga. Arizona State had a long week beginning with the game on Tuesday. So Gonzaga basically had five rest days between the Baylor game and the ASU game, where ASU played Tuesday against Idaho State, went to Las Vegas Friday to play a very good Santa Clara team, and then traveled to Spokane the next day without going back to Tempe. And so ASU had a long week, and I just kind of expected that would take a little bit more of a toll. Gonzaga had more time to rest, to scout the Sun Devils. And so I thought that I wasn't expecting a second straight 38-point win. I thought that Gonzaga would have a chance to pull away in the second half and win comfortably in that game. And but at the same time, I think it's good to have a game like that on Monday and then also get punched in the mouth the next game, because you're not going to win every game by 38. You're going to have to find ways to win games, and that was something that last year's team didn't do very well. And I said last night, I think last year's team probably would have lost that game last night because they didn't really have the closing ability that this year's team kind of seems to have, at least through one close game. So a positive result. I think Mark Few would have been very happy with 2-0. However, it came through those first two games.
Yeah, I would agree with you on the assessment that I don't think that this team a year ago would have won that game. Like there were so many pieces, and the depth of this squad actually has played a factor in these two games. And also what we saw was like that veteran leadership from that core, from I think it was Ryan Nemhard, Caleb Battle. You saw it from Michael Ajayi. Kind of talk a little bit what your observations have been about like that veteran leadership that this group has had and its impact, especially last night against Arizona State.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team with a bunch of guys who are 21 years or older. I think they have a few 23, 24-year-olds on the roster. So everyone on this team has been through, a full season, if not 4 or 5 full seasons of college basketball. Caleb Battle's on his 4th school. He's in year 6 college basketball. Ryan Nemhard, he's a seasoned vet. Graham Mike, although he didn't play a whole lot last night, is still a seasoned vet. Ben Gregg was on that national championship runner-up team that lost to Baylor. So a lot of guys who are very comfortable in late game situations. And if you even look at guys now like Dusty Stromer and Braden Huff, they were playing their second college basketball game this time last year, and they obviously have a full season under their belt now. Have played in the NCAA tournament, so they're not really uncomfortable with that stage and kind of making the plays that you need to make down the stretch. So a really composed team. I think it would have been easy. I think ASU was up by 4 points with like under 10 minutes left, and that could have probably gone one or two ways. And last year's team might have let it go the other way, whereas this year's team kept up, and they weren't really getting the stops that they needed at that point to pull away, but they were scoring almost every time down. So it was still a 2-point game, 3-point game, 1-point game, tie game for most of the last 10 minutes, and then obviously Gonzaga is able to get to the free throw line late and kind of pull away there in the last 2 minutes.
I mean, Caleb Battle has been just such a such a revelation, I think, for this team, because he's given them something they really haven't had in a long time when you think about just how explosive he is on the offensive end. I mean, like you think about the Baylor game where he hit the 3 3-pointers in a matter of like it felt like it was the blink of an eye, and he had 9-10 points right away in the second half there. And kind of the same thing what we saw in this game as well, where it's like he has these spurts that just are momentum swinging bursts. And like talk about like his impact on the squad, because this is again like it's something it feels like that this team has been missing to kind of get them to back to that level where they were national title contenders again.
Yeah, it's good to have someone who can just create offense for himself. I mean, they really haven't had a lot of that the last handful of years. I think the one comparison that Mark Few made last night to Battle is Zach Norvell Jr., who was on that 2018-2019 team that went to the Elite Eight. He's actually now on the coaching staff, so he's seeing Khalif Battle every day and probably giving him some advice too. But they really just haven't had that explosive guy who can beat you off the dribble, who can put pressure on the rim, and especially once he does that and gets to the free throw line, he's going to make his free throws. I mean, I think Mark Few said at media day, it might have been to you and Andy actually, that he made 140 free throws consecutively in practice, and I still want to see video to kind of confirm that, because it's just hard to believe that that's possible. That's a lot of free throws, but he made 8 of 8 last night. I don't think he's missed one this season. So to have a guy that can go to the free throw line late in these close games, make the free throws, handle business, pull out of these close games with the win, and not let it get away from you is really important. And he's just a very different player. He's obviously a 6th-year guard who hasn't had a lot of team success at his past stops, Butler, Temple, and Arkansas. And I think he just wanted to go somewhere where he knew that he was going to play in the tournament, potentially play deep into the tournament, and also play for a program that's known to kind of develop these really solid NBA guards. So really nice to have him in those situations. And he's going to be a kind of a microwave scorer for this team. The first half yesterday didn't do a whole lot. I think was scoreless through the first 20 minutes, and then just all of a sudden you look up and he has like 12, 14 points, and is going to the free throw line, making threes. Obviously, flushing down an alley-oop dunk from Ryan Nemhard that made Sports Center top 10. So he has some bounce, some athleticism, and really brings a lot to this team. That I really think if you looked at kind of what they needed from last year's team, just having this explosive guy who can get you a bucket when you need it was one of those things on their wish list.
Caleb's battle free throw number. It's either we need to get him with Steph Curry and see exactly how many, who's going to miss a free throw first, or maybe it's just going to continue to grow in legend. By 10 years from now, it'll have 200 free throws is actually what he made in a row. It'll just continue to grow in Zag lore. Braden Huff is a nut. He looks so much better from a year ago. Like he looks like he's so much more comfortable down there. He's more confident. Defensively, yes, there's still some challenges there, but offensively, I mean, he looks like the most effective guy. Like he's almost like right there with Graham Ike in a lot of ways. Just how good he's been down low in these first 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he overtook Graham Ike last night in the rotation, and he subbed in with about 4 minutes into the first half. Was really effective. He's just one of the most efficient players you'll see in terms of like points per minute. Last year, I think he led the team in points per minute coming off the bench. So he's going to score in bunches. He's going to score right away. He's another player where you just kind of look up and suddenly he has 10 points, and you're like, hey, you just checked in like 2 minutes ago. And he's going to just bring that to this team. And obviously Mark Few is okay going with him. And that says a lot about this team and their depth when Few is able to go away from his potential, All-American big man in Graham Ike, who was a candidate for Player of the Year in the WCC last year and all the accolades, and a 5th-year senior who everyone really trusts. And I think it just kind of shows what Braden's done the last year, 2 years actually. I think a lot of people also forget that he had that redshirt year 2 years ago. So that's been a really valuable tool for people in this program, dating all the way back to Kelly Olynyk, who kind of developed with the redshirt year. So Braden Huff is technically a third-year player in Gonzaga's program. So just knows how to go about things. Spent a year, with Drew Timme. So I think he has a lot of that kind of inside scoring touch that Drew had. Not comparing him directly to Drew yet. He obviously has a lot to accomplish, but he is going to be someone that's going to give Gonzaga a different look. And I think last night, if you're ASU, you feel pretty good about what you do against Graham Ike for a few minutes, but then Braden Huff comes in and then brings kind of a totally different scoring ability to that roster. And then just with his touch inside, he is able to step out and shoot the three. He hasn't really done it well this season yet, but he's going to be someone that you do have to guard when he's out on the perimeter, and that obviously opens up a lot of floor for everyone else. So curious to see kind of what he does next and how much playing time he's going to get. But obviously Mark Few showed that he's not afraid to bench his best player and play Braden Huff if Huff has it going.
Right, yeah, he was on a roll there. Also, like we talked so much about like his scoring ability and everything else. One of the things, obviously, the Zag big men have done traditionally well over the years is just their ability to pass, and we saw that actually a bit with Graham Ike in the first game, where honestly, like he wasn't completely in the flow on his scoring, but like he looked like he was so much better on the passing front. Same with Braden Huff, and like kind of. What have you noticed there on just like their passing ability as well? Because I think that's something that we've seen improve from a year ago as well.
Yeah, I think that's something that you kind of have to be able to do as a Gonzaga big man, because if you are as effective as guys like Drew Timme and Gray Mike and now maybe Braden Huff, you're going to get a lot of double teams. Obviously, Drew saw that quite a bit his 4 years, so he's going to get double teamed quite a bit if he has it going, and you're going to have to be able to identify open shooters and be able to kick out to other players. And Gonzaga obviously has a lot of capable shooters on the perimeter, and didn't shoot it quite as well last night, but obviously you saw, like you mentioned in that Baylor game, Graham Mike is missing a lot of shots that he's accustomed to making. Doesn't really have it going offensively in the first half, but he's making those swing passes, those kick out passes that are leading to Nolan Hickman's threes and Dusty Strummer's threes and Ryan Nemhard. So he's I think he's certainly improved there. Not that he wasn't looking to pass last season, but it was never something you really noticed and said, wow, he's really doing a great job of distributing the ball out of the post, and that was something that a lot of people noticed on Monday. So if that can be kind of a staple of his game this year, it's only going to add to what Gonzaga can do offensively.
All right. Well, thanks, Theo, for hopping on. Just chatting some Zag basketball. I mean, this team looks about as good as I think we could have all expected. Beating Baylor the way they did, getting a gritty win against Arizona State. This looks like the team that could get deeper into the tournament. Obviously, there was Sweet 16 a year ago, and the tournament does crazy things to teams. But it looked very much so a team that can get back to the Final Four and have a chance to do maybe what's none of the other Zag teams have been able to do before.
Yeah, I certainly think so. I think people also have to just take into account it's going to be a long season. There's going to be more games like Sunday against better teams than ASU also. So they're going to have to play different teams that present different issues and play with different styles offensively, defensively. So I would maybe tell people to temper expectations after Monday's game, but I'm also not saying that this team can't make the Final Four, because it clearly looks like they're going to be a team in the mix. And then I think Mark views those teams also get better throughout the year, pretty much every year. So if you're starting at that point, beating Baylor by 38, if you can expect this team to just get better every week, playing teams like UConn, Kentucky, battle for Atlantis, and obviously playing St. Mary's a couple times always helps them out. So we'll kind of see where they end up. It's always going to be about matchups in March, and then once they get there, can they just kind of win every game? So we'll see what happens. But 2-0 is not a bad way to start.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, Theo, for hopping on. We'll catch up down the road, and Zags have UMass Lowell on Friday, and then we're 1 week away from their trip to San Diego to take on the Aztecs, and that's going to be a fun one too. All right, Theo. Thanks for hopping on, and we'll catch up down the road.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
So the Zags do come in 2-0 into this week. There's a lot to be said about that Arizona State game. That was a team that I think challenged them a little bit more because of their length, because of their size and whatnot. And I was thinking about that Arizona State game in retrospect of the Santa Clara game. Because when Santa Clara dropped that close one to Arizona State, I was thinking, because it was on Flow Sports, I didn't get the chance to watch it, that, well, typical Arizona State teams are very up and down. Is this team really going to be all that good, or is this going to be kind of like a missed opportunity for the Broncos? Now, it very well may be still a missed opportunity for them, but it doesn't. After seeing the Sun Devils play on Sunday, I felt less bad about them losing that game, because this is a squad that, if they can push Gonzaga at the kennel, this might be a team that's going to be really good throughout the course of the year. That said, just on Wednesday night, that Santa Clara has North Dakota State, which should be a no-brainer, no problem game. They'll take care of business in that one. They were a 16-point favorite in the contest. They had a 19-point lead, and they saw it disappear. North Dakota State forced overtime, and Santa Clara lost to the Bison on their home court. There's no way around it. It's not a good look for Santa Clara. They shot 41% from the field. They were 8 for 37 from three, which is 21%. They out-rebounded them. They had more points in the paint. You looked at the box score, they did almost everything else right except make shots. Well, except for one thing, which is a concerning trend in the first 3 games for Santa Clara. They have allowed 12 or more made three-pointers in each of their first 3 games and 15 in each of the last 2 against North Dakota State and Arizona State. That is a way to keep bad teams in the game. Again, North Dakota State is going... Now, it does look like they're going to be maybe much better than a lot of people maybe thought, that I thought, or whatnot coming into this one. But you're at home. If you're a team in Santa Clara that thinks it's a NCAA tournament contender, you're a team that thinks that you're going to put together an at-large resume, these are the sorts of games you can't have happen. Talked about it all off season long. Are they capable? Yes. But these are the games that can cripple you when you go back and look at a non-conference resume. This is probably at the best, it's a quad 3 loss. At worst, it's a quad 4. And there have been teams that have been able to crawl out of that, but you're going to have to make up ground, and you're going to have to make it up fast. And luckily for Santa Clara, there is that opportunity this coming Saturday against Nevada. Now, the challenge here is that Nevada is playing very well at the moment. They are coming off a win on Wednesday night, beating Weber State by 30, where they did more or less everything well. They're coming off of a win before that against Washington, where they won by 10 in Reno. And this is a squad that also has a very big front court and is going to do most of its damage around the basket. So the big thing to me going into this one is you have to protect the rim. And Santa Clara, to this point, has I don't think they've done a fairly good job of that, but they also need to obviously defend the 3-point line. That's something else that now has to happen, as we've started to see this be a bit of a trend for Santa Clara. And Nevada's coming off a game, again, the Weber State game, 12 for 21 from 3, 57%. That has to be one of the key factors as you go into this weekend. Thinking about how is Santa Clara going to slow down the likes of Kobe Sanders, 6'10 guard. He had 20 points in the game against Washington. In this one, he had 11 points. But this was a really more balanced attack by Nevada in their recent game against Weber State. This you're going to have to pay attention to, obviously, like Nick Davidson in the post. He had 14 tonight. Xavier Dussel, there's another guy you're going to have to pay attention to. He had 17. This is a pretty well-balanced squad, and Nevada is going to make it tough. They're going to be able to throw a number of different guys at you. They're going to be able to really kind of get inside and challenge you. Again, this is a team that was in the NCAA tournament a year ago. This is a team that knows how to distribute. They had 24 assists tonight on their 29 made baskets. So Santa Clara is going to have to improve a lot on the defensive end if they're going to have a shot in this one. Because we didn't see it against North Dakota State. We did not see it against Arizona State. And while they still won the St. Louis game, there were question marks in that game about their defense. Offensively, Santa Clara can run with most anybody, but they're going to have to be more effective. They can't live and die by the 3, which they died by the 3 tonight. If they're even, again, they make one more 3-pointer in regulation and they win this game. This is a squad that now I think is kind of on the ropes in Santa Clara, that their opportunity, not to say that I think it's a must win on Saturday. I'm going to pull back on that a little bit. But this is now on every opportunity like this becomes that much greater because of this North Dakota State loss at home. No more of those games can be lost, which now puts the pressure on all these good games. And there's obviously plenty of good games left on Santa Clara's schedule. We know that. We know that they still have Stanford coming up. We know they still have TCU, McNeese, Bradley. They'll play either Washington or Colorado State. They have TCU. There are still chances left on the schedule for them. But the bad losses have to come to a stop. And seeing the performance by Santa Clara on Wednesday has me much more concerned about them going into Nevada and possibly getting that win. The defense has to be cleaned up, period. I can't look at individual players and say like, oh, it's this or that or whatever else. This is a team effort, and they have to be better on that front. They have to defend the 3-point line. They have to rebound well in this contest. They have to do all the little things right. They're not turning the ball over. This is the weird thing. It's like they're doing little things well, but they're doing some critical things poorly right now. That cost them the game tonight, and that probably prevented them from winning against a good Arizona State team just the other day. So thinking about this Nevada game on the whole, if Santa Clara can defend the 3-point line decently, not even great, just decently, keep Nevada under 10 3-pointers in this next game, and I think Santa Clara is going to have a shot to win on the road. But they're going to have to do that. They're going to have to win the rebounding battle, and they're going to have to just match Nevada, I think, just shot for shot, because this is a Nevada team that is looking really good right now. They're playing well, and getting them up in their building is going to take, I think, a lot to be able to knock them off. So if I had to pick between the two of them right now, like, I'm going to go with Nevada in this one, unless Santa Clara can figure out how to limit the 3-pointers and win that battle on the glass. If they can do those two things, they could pull off the upset against the Wolfpack. Now, teams that I feel like are on making the move and are actually starting to kind of move in the right direction, I'm going to go to Washington State, because this is a squad that is 3-0. They've scored 90-plus points in each of their first 3 games, and they're going up against an Iowa team, also 3-0, who is averaging 91 a game. If you want to see offense, I think this is the game you really want to pay attention to. These two teams are going to score. They're going to score at will. They're going to be effective doing it. I think they're going to do it in different ways. But one of the things that is kind of consistent with these two is that they will rebound well, and there's going to be a physicality to these squads. Owen Freeman for Iowa was the Big Ten co-freshman of the year last year. He's averaging 15 points, 8.5 rebounds so far this year. He did miss their most recent game against South Dakota due to an illness, but you'd expect him to probably be back for this game. Peyton Sanford is another one. 6'8" forward, third team All Big Ten last season. He was a preseason All Big Ten selection this year. 16 points per game, 43% from 3, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. He fills up the stat sheet. This is going to be one of the really key defensive matchups for Washington State when you're looking at how you're going to probably slow this team down. Again, this is a team that has a ton of guys who are going to give you points. Freeman averages 15. Sanford averages 16. His brother Price, who is also one of their rotation players, is averaging 14 to this point. He has 21 3-point attempts in the first 3 games. So this is someone who's going to launch often. John Dix, another 6'6" guard, he's averaging 15 a game. So this is up and down this roster. You have guys who are going to run up the score. You have guys who are going to look for their shot, look for it often, which I think is going to make this game really fun because Washington State is very much the same way. Thinking about Cedric Howard and how he's played to this point. Thinking about Dane Erikstrup and how he's played recently. Nate Calmese has been really good these first few games, averaging 18 points, nearly 18 points a game. The 4.6 assists. Lawan Watts has been really good. Ethan Price has been good. The one difference I think that was added, the wrinkle added just the other night against Idaho, was that Andy Okafor was back in the rotation. He missed the first couple games due to an injury. He was back for the game against Idaho and immediately made an impact. 12 points, 6 rebounds. He made them look like a different team when he came into the ball game. He gave them a wrinkle that they didn't have, kind of like a physical toughness inside that, not to say that it's not present, because Price gives you that, Erikstrup gives you that, but those guys are also going to be out on the perimeter a little bit more, and Okafor is going to be that banger inside that this squad is going to need. And I think that's something that is going to play a factor and be an important piece in this game against Iowa, because there's going to be someone kind of similar on the other side of for the Buckeyes, or not the Buckeyes, the Hawkeyes. Laji Dembele, who's another one of those bangers inside. He's averaging 6.6 rebounds coming off the bench for them. There is a lot of similarities between these two squads, so it's going to be a lot of fun to see these two go at it. But I think for Washington State, one of the things they have done so well early on that might be kind of the tipping point and the big difference between these two is getting to the free throw line. Washington, the Cougars have done such a good job getting teams in foul trouble and getting to the line. They've had 85 free throw attempts in the first 3 games. So I think this is a way where, while they still play up tempo and still play a high pace, they can play it at their pace because of the free throw attempts, because of the way they get to the line. Calmese will cause havoc on that front. Coward will cause havoc on that front. Watts is going to be in there on that. This is going to be I think that's kind of the one thing that if they can continue to do well, get to that free throw line, play at their pace, this is a game Washington State, I think, can take on the road at neutral site. They're going to be in Moline. They will not be in Iowa for this one. But looking at this matchup, I like Washington State in this, the way they've hit the ground running with this offense, with just the new pieces, even though there's not all new pieces, because you have same head coach and a group of 4 guys who have all come with them, that Eastern Washington 4. They make up almost 60% of the total points to this at this stage. So that continuity coming from Eastern Washington has actually been a big factor, and kind of something that that was maybe overlooked, at least overlooked by me, of like maybe being kind of like something that was going to be a benefit, or at least of this much of a benefit early on. I thought it was going to help, but with so many other new pieces, I thought that might take some time. But clearly this is a squad that knows what the system is going to take, and has already figured out, at least early on, how to at least do this on the offensive end. So I expect this game to be high scoring, just like these two have been most of the season. Now, I don't expect this to be in the 90s, but this is one that could definitely be into the 80s very easily. And what Washington State, what the Cougars are able to do at the free throw line, the number of attempts they get and how they're able to convert there, I think is going to end up being the difference in this contest. So I think it'll be close in the 80s, and I would pick the Cougars to go 4-0 and put themselves in position to kind of continue on this road and start to build actually a tournament quality resume, getting deeper into the non-conference. All right, and that leaves me with my last game of the week, which is LMU at St. Louis. This is only the second game of the year against a D1 opponent for both of the teams. And St. Louis, there's a couple of things to note. Robbie Avila is still out with an ankle injury. That happened against Santa Clara last week, and he is expected to be out for a couple more weeks. Kobe Johnson, another key part for St. Louis, is also going to be out. He is still day-to-day, but he has not played in the first two games, so it'll be a TBD on whether or not he's available. And on LMU's side, we still haven't seen Rick Asanza come back into the fold. He's missed the first two contests, so we'll see how available he's going to be against this St. Louis squad. I think the name of the game here is going to be, for LMU, is the perimeter defense. Because this St. Louis team is going to shoot it, and they're going to shoot it often from three. Gibson Jimerson, who obviously has been one of the St. Louis's better players for the last few years, he's going to have to pick up some of that slack with Robbie Avila out. But he's averaged 22 a game. He's taken 19 3-pointers in those first two contests. This is someone who averaged 15 a game last year, so seeing him take that next step up is not a huge surprise. So that's going to be someone that you're going to have to keep an eye on. Isaiah Swope is another one that is going to be key for this LMU defense to keep an eye on. He's been averaging 16 a game through the first two. He's taken 23 threes through these first couple games. So again, another just guy who's going to be a factor on the perimeter, and that's going to be a continued factor here. Kellen Thames, I should say, 6'6" guard, another one, 16 points per game through the first two. He's shooting 65%. And down low, one of the things I think LMU is going to really have to do is they're going to have to rebound well. This is not necessarily something that they've done. They were minus 11 rebounding against UC Irvine just this past week. And the matchup there is Kalu Anya, 6'8" forward. He's averaging nearly 10 rebounds a game through the first two contests. And keeping him off the glass is going to be key, especially if Asanza is unavailable again for this contest. They did get Javon Porter back. LMU got Javon Porter back for the Irvine game. He did have 19. But that was a game that LMU was out of pretty quickly. And Irvine is a good team. I'm not saying that obviously that's a team that LMU should be, but they should be more competitive with the Anteaters. They lost 66-51. They shot 33% from the field. They need to rebound better. They need to play that perimeter defense. They need to shoot better. Offensively, they did not look cohesive at all in that game against Irvine. So now I don't expect that to continue. This team is too talented for that to be a continued theme. And it's maybe early to throw up a red flag when they've only played 2 games and they've only played one Division I opponent. And one of the things I think that maybe LMU can take advantage of is that St. Louis has allowed teams to really just walk to the free throw line. They've allowed 20 attempts per game in these first two, and which is a little bit more shocking when you think of it's fine when you do that against a Santa Clara team. But then when that also happens against a non-D1 opponent in your second game, then that's a little bit more concerning that team that you're not playing good enough defense to keep them off the line. So this is a space, this is an area where LMU might be able to take advantage of that. You think of Alex Merkviladze and how he could potentially attack the basket and get to the line. MJ Amy is another guy. Myron Amy could end up doing that and taking advantage of it. Jan Vide could take advantage of that. LMU needs to figure out that offensive flow, and even if it's, hey, I'm going to just get fouled and get to the line, that is something that St. Louis is prone to. That's something that you could take advantage of. But it's getting into a rhythm early. Getting into that offensive rhythm early, I think, is going to do a lot for the Lions' confidence as they get deeper into that game, because we just haven't seen it really flow to this point. And again, it's very similar to when I was talking about Santa Clara. I don't want to raise the red flag quite yet because this is still a team that's still learning how to play together. They're still in a very different spot than Santa Clara, but you also don't want this to kind of get away from you too quickly. You don't want this sort of game to be the one that reinforces the idea that maybe this isn't a team that can put it together after all. And LMU is kind of on the hot seat in that way. You have the talent, you have the schedule, you got to go out and prove it. Santa Clara, you have the talent, you have to go out and prove it. So in this game, I think this is still going to be a tough one. I'm waiting for LMU's ability to shine through. I'm waiting to see it. But what I know is I have seen St. Louis play well. I think they played well against Santa Clara. They just didn't come out with the win. They're at home. It's their second Division I game. And they're going to be hungry for that first Division I win of the season. And Robbie Avila or not, I think that the St. Louis squad has enough experience, talent that is cohesive enough that is going to be able to pull this one out. If LMU is going to do that, to get a win here, play that perimeter defense and get some flow of the offense, get to the free throw line and put the pressure back on St. Louis, because they're not going to go away. This is a veteran team who knows how to win ball games. You're going to have to keep the pressure on them. So it is attack, 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 and do not let up on this St. Louis squad, because the Billikens will pull out a win if you even give them a slight opening. All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode of the unofficial WCC Hoops podcast. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and follow along on social media at Post by Zach and at unofficial WCC pod. Weekend of basketball ahead. Next episode will be on Monday, as we will start to preview this week's games. Obviously, one of those being Gonzaga and San Diego State next Monday night. So until then, thanks for watching, everybody, and I will catch you later.